U.S. bankruptcies at a near record high. Is the economy in trouble? That's coming up on Business Matters. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining me here today. I'm your host, Dama. Let's go to markets first. U.S. stocks ended sharply lower today. The S&P fell 64 points or 1.2%, and the Dow dropped 530 points or 1.3%, and the Nasdaq lost 228 points or 1.4%. This is as Federal Reserve officials took a bit more cautious approach in their comments on the outlook for interest rate cuts. Also at the same time, what's happening is investors are bracing for tomorrow's key U.S. monthly jobs report. They're also weighing comments by U.S. President Joe Biden. He said that he wants an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza war, and oil prices climbed on the geopolitical tensions. So among the comments by Fed officials, let me just point one out here. Minneapolis Fed Bank president, he said that at the U.S. Central Bank's meeting last month, he penciled in 2 rate cuts this year. But he also said that if inflation continues to stall, that is, none actually may be required this year. All right, moving on to something that impacts all of us, something that we're all a part of, and that's the economy. But not good news here, because U.S. layoffs have reached a new high. Job cuts last month rose to more than 90,000, and this is the highest in 14 months. Employees in technology and government took the biggest hits. The tech industry continued to outpace other sectors in layoffs through the first quarter of this year, while the U.S. government saw the most cuts last month, and many of the roles were slashed from Veteran Affairs and the U.S. Army. A career expert said that many employers are citing cost-cutting efforts and restructuring efforts at the same time for the reason of these cuts. But, despite the jump in layoffs, the job market appears to still be holding strong, so not immediate concerns right now. The cuts announced year to date are actually down 5% from a year ago. So a few days ago, a viewer wrote in the comments, by the way, I do read them, so keep them coming. He wrote that raising the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour is a bad idea. We actually reported on this a couple days ago, and this viewer, I don't know, may have a point, because apparently now California schools is forced to compete with fast food industry for their workers after this minimum wage hike. This could make it harder and harder to hire food service employees for California schools. And just for your information, by the way, the hike doesn't apply to school food service workers. They are historically some of the lowest paid workers in public education. And adding fuel to the flame is the fact that a demand for school meals is higher than ever in California. So, right now we just have to wait and see what schools can do to actually compete here. What else too high minimum wage could lead to? That is bankruptcies. In fact, business bankruptcies are near hitting a record high, and this is according to Bloomberg data. If the pace continues, it's going to break the previous record, which was coming out of the 2008 financial crisis. Business bankruptcies could hit a new record high. As I mentioned, according to Bloomberg data, it's showing that this week had one of the most corporate bankruptcies on record in a 3-day period. If this pace continues into Saturday, it's going to break the previous record near the Great Recession in 2009. Total bankruptcies have been rising for the past 20 months, according to legal firm Epic. Bankruptcies are an economic indicator, and they may signal challenges in the overall economy. And now just a quick update for you on McDonald's today. Something happening. The fast food chain is buying 225 restaurants in Israel that were previously owned and operated by an Israeli franchise. The fast food chain has been subject to boycotts and protests in the country in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks by Hamas. And after that, it quickly offered discounts to Israeli soldiers, security forces, and others as well. McDonald's CEO said earlier that the company has seen meaningful impact in several markets in the Middle East due to the conflict. Now, just so you know, McDonald's is a global chain, but its franchises are often owned and locally operated autonomously. And the franchise has more than 5,000 employees in Israel and has run the McDonald's franchise in the country for 30 years. And another quick update, and this is on Ford. The company is delaying production of 2 all-electric vehicles, and this is to allow time for the EV market to mature. So it's saying that instead it's going to focus on hybrid versions of all its North American vehicles by 2030. And as for the delays, here's what's happening. A large all-electric SUV with 3 rows is being pushed to 2027, and an all-electric pickup truck is being delayed until 2026. The move comes as the entire auto industry apparently is rethinking plans for EVs. People have been found to get wrong answers from AI chatbots since becoming available to the public, but new concerns are rising in one particular giving wrong answers on the NYC government's official website. What's that all about? NTD Sean Marshall brings us more.
AI chatbots giving wrong answers on government websites is highly concerning to some New York City residents. But the city government says it's a necessary step to move forward with helping the public. An artificial intelligence-powered chatbot created by New York City to help small business owners is under criticism for giving out bizarre advice that misstates local policies and advises companies to violate the law. The city has opted to leave the tool on its official government website. Mayor Eric Adams defended the decision this week.
It's wrong in some areas, and we got to fix it.
Some answers were simple mistakes, but these were more entertaining. At time, the bot's answers veered into the absurd. Asked if a restaurant could serve cheese nibbled on by a rodent, it responded yes. You can still serve the cheese to customers if it has rat bites, before adding that it was important to assess the extent of the damage caused by the rat and to inform customers about the situation. In other responses, the chatbot falsely suggested it is legal for an employer to fire a worker who complains about sexual harassment, doesn't disclose a pregnancy, or refuses to cut their dreadlocks. They're rolling out software that is unproven without oversight, said Julia Stojanovic, a computer science professor and director of the Center for Responsible AI at New York University. It's clear they have no intention of doing what's responsible.
There's clearly a disclaimer on that site that says that, number one, New Yorkers shouldn't rely on it for legal advice. And then number two, we want to call on New Yorkers who are using it because that's how we improve that tool to provide that type of feedback.
Sean Marshall, NTD News.
All right, thank you for that, Sean. And by the way, wow, serving cheese with rat bites to customers? Anyways. Here on Business Matters, we like to inform you on a wide range of things happening currently, and we think this next one is worth your time. So Google trying to set a precedent here against con artists by slapping a group of crypto scammers with a lawsuit. Okay, so here's what happened. The Alphabet-owned company alleges that the scammers created and uploaded at least 87 fake apps, including Tryon RT to its Google Play Store. So you really have to be careful in this day and age. The suit accuses the 2 con artists of luring victims to download, by the way, what appeared to be a legitimate investing app, but users complained that they were unable to withdraw their investments after putting money in there. And Google claims it suffered more than $75,000 in damages and is seeking a permanent injunction against the defendants to prevent them or their employees from Google accounts and services. And moving on, here's something else that could potentially matter to you as well. Another streaming service is cracking down on password sharing, and that is Disney. The CEO, Bob Iger, announced that the company will limit password sharing in a few countries on Disney Plus starting in June. A wider crackdown will roll out in September, and the entertainment giant is working to boost its subscription growth and make the streaming service more profitable. Okay, staying with Disney a little bit here. The company had a shareholder meeting yesterday and we reported on that. Today, we're inviting one of their shareholders who actually attended the meeting. He presented some very serious concerns. Here's Scott Shepard from the National Center for Public Policy Research. Okay, Scott, thank you very much for being here today. To begin, maybe you can just tell us this proposal that you presented yesterday at the Disney shareholder meeting.
Yeah, well, it certainly wasn't top billing at that meeting, but we had a shareholder proposal that asked this board, and we hoped a new board, to account for the charitable donations, charitable partnerships that Disney's made over the Iger era. We know that those are just a reflection of a larger issue of Iger and his team making big risks, taking big risks for small benefit in order to advance his and his buddies' personal policy preferences, hard left-wing policy preferences, at the expense of Disney shareholders.
So simply, you want Disney to let the public know where their donations are going towards. Well, why should that be a concern?
Well, I mean, the last year has made it perfectly clear. The American public isn't excited for companies to get involved with, contribute to, give shareholder money to organizations that push extreme, radical positions of any sort. We're not people trying to get them to take extreme right-wing positions or extreme libertarian positions. We want corporations to follow their fiduciary duty, which means staying out of partisan controversies and avoiding unnecessary risk.
What kind of organizations have Disney donated towards?
Well, the ones that we put, now these were used as examples, but the ones we focused on in our proposal were organizations that pretend to be just about things that everybody can agree on, but really push positions like indoctrinating small school children with radical gender ideology, hiding that from the parents, and then hiding the results of it, the gender confusion that this creates from the parents as well, up and down the line. These are extreme positions. The average American opposes them. The average Disney client, customer, shareholder opposes them. And it's absolutely a violation of duty to espouse that as a central fact of the Disney brand.
So the direction that perhaps Disney is taking, or the leadership that of Disney is taking, is there an impact on shareholders themselves as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, with everything that Iger has done, Disney has dropped terrifically in value, was pumped up a little bit before this meeting, and then started falling as soon as it was clear that Iger was back and there wouldn't be anything but yes men for another year on the Disney board. They hire people and keep people who come right out and say, we're going to make movies that our current audience hates because we hate our current audience. Now, that's no way to run a business of any kind.
One final question. What do you think fans want from Disney?
Fans want from Disney what fans got from Disney for nearly a century. They want to be able to trust Disney with their kids, put their kids in front of Disney programming. They want to theme parks and the whole rest of it without the constant politics and badgering and indoctrination and everything that has become the hallmark of Iger's Disney reign.
All right, Scott, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Take care now.
All right, we're taking a very short break here, but when we come back, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in China with a strong message for Chinese manufacturers, and that is, stop producing. And what happens when you add Caitlin Clark to the Final Four? Well, the answer is women's ticket prices that are now more than twice the cost of the men's. Legendary David Martin joins us after the break.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is gonna break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield. Those expensive repair bills get paid and at the mechanic of their choice. They're notifying the family.
Poor guy, he doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
Protect yourself from the unprecedented rise in cost for parts and repairs. Call now to save money with your price lock guarantee. Call 800-429-5128.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, "I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack." I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
And welcome back. They actually let me sit for the rest of the show. Thank you. So some quick headlines for you guys for everything else that's happening for today. According to Elastic Airlines, Boeing paid it about $160 million during the first quarter of the year to cover losses from the temporary grounding of Boeing's 737 MAX 9 jets. And that came after a mid-air blowout of a MAX 9 during an Alaska Airlines flight in January. Okay, just a couple more headlines for you. Accounts on the social media platform X with at least 2,500 verified followers were gifted premium subscriptions and verification badges. Musk said previously that the company would give free premium features to some accounts. And the U.S. trade deficit widened again in February, increasing to nearly $69 billion for a second straight month. An increase in exports was offset by a surge in imports. Now on to some China-related stories. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen arrived in China today. She plans to press her Chinese counterparts about China's, quote, unfair trade practices and industrial overcapacity. Yellen says this is, in fact, a threat to the global economy. Let's have a listen.
We have agreed that it's important to both of us that we don't want to decouple our economies. We want to continue, and we think we both benefit from trade and investment, but that it needs to be in a level playing field.
Yellen said last week that China's state support has led to substantial overinvestment in steel, aluminum, and other industries. This led to cheap exports of solar panels, electric cars, for example, and lithium batteries, which, by the way, forced manufacturing to contract in other countries. Yellen said the U.S. would consider imposing tariffs and other trade barriers on China to protect its industries. The trip happens right after President Biden talked to the CCP leader Xi Jinping on the phone. This is Yellen's second visit to China within 1 year. And another China-related story is the U.S. is upping its effort to undermine China's ability to produce its own advanced computer chips. Washington has called on allies to stop maintaining some of the chip-making tools that they have already sold to China, especially Dutch-based ASML. So this is the largest maker of chip-making equipment in the world. So this is very significant here. The Dutch government is a close U.S. ally, but the country wouldn't want to harm its biggest company either. Last year, it sold more than $6.5 billion worth of equipment to Chinese customers. ASML told Reuters that it has export licenses until the end of the year to service a majority of its Chinese customers. While ASML dominates the market right now, it is facing competition, including from a Chinese firm. Experts are also warning that curbing Chinese chip makers now would just motivate them to develop alternatives to ASML equipment. And now for your sports and business news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, let me ask you this. The women's college basketball tickets for this weekend's Final Four are selling for an average price of twice of that of the men's tickets. So let me ask you, what can we attribute this to?
I would say the biggest reason, Iowa star Caitlin Clark. And this has been an ongoing storyline this year. The audience that she has attracted to the game. I mean, she's a reigning player of the year. She's probably already the biggest draw in women's basketball history. I'm not sure there's been another women's sports star, period, that can match the viewers and excitement she brings to the game. Now, there was a report in February that showed the schools that host Iowa and Caitlin Clark saw an increased attendance of 150% this season. In fact, some schools like Northwestern, they had their first sellout in school history when Clark came there to play. Meanwhile, the average ticket price of Iowa's ticket since Clark joined there 4 years ago has gone up more than 200%. Now, like you said, according to Logitech, a company that analyzes prices, the average ticket for tomorrow night's women's Final Four, $2,300. Meanwhile, for the men's, which starts Saturday, just over $1,000. So quite a difference there.
All right, so very interesting, but what about the arenas they play in? Because as I understand, normally the men play in a larger dome to accommodate all the fans?
Yeah, that's certainly true as well. I think that's got to be part of it for sure. The men will play in a 63,000 seat stadium, State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Meanwhile, the women are going to play in a 19,000 seat. That's Rocket Mortgage, that's in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where the Cleveland Cavs play, actually. So it's 3 times more the size. Certainly supply and demand are going to be part of it. But also for the men, you had at least 2 surprise participants in Alabama and NC State. This is Alabama's first time getting here. NC State hasn't been here in 40 years. So they don't have quite the draw that UConn and Purdue would have. Meanwhile, on the women's side, this is really a star-studded Final Four. You have Caitlin Clark and Iowa, biggest draw in the game. Actually, you have South Carolina, which is undefeated. They're ranked #1. They actually outdrew Iowa this year, but they have a larger home capacity. Plus, you have UConn, which has dominated women's basketball over the last 25 years. And you actually have NC State, that's a program rise. This is a much more star-studded Final Four on the women's side as compared to the men's.
All right, let's just briefly move on from basketball here to something right here in New York City. Interesting development, it appears, because the city wants organizers of the New York City Marathon to pay $750,000 for the use of the Verzarano Bridge. Now, how did they come up with that number?
Well, I mean, that's what the organizers of the race are asking. I mean, the city said that's the estimated amount of toll revenue lost for closing it down for a day. Now, it's only $7 to cross it, so I guess they figure over 100,000 cars would come on an average Sunday in November, which is when the race is run. However, organizers of the race, they've asked for some data to back that up. They have yet to get that from New York City. They said their 2019 race generated more than $400 million in revenue for the city. Meanwhile, New York Governor Kathy Hochul's office said last year's year's event drew, quote, record subway ridership. Now, this race has used the Verrazano Bridge in the races every year since 1976. And the bridge connects Brooklyn and Staten Island. And where they're at in negotiations is that the MTA is basically saying, unless you pay us $750,000, we're going to only open one of the decks, which would cause quite a traffic jam. I mean, this race draws 50,000 participants a year. So hopefully they get this figured out for the next one, which is going to be in November.
All right. I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for the insight. Hope you come back again next time.
Thank you, Don.
All right, California could be the first state to give employees a right to disconnect. So let me explain what that means. So it's where workers can ignore communications from their boss during non-working hours. This is a bill that just got introduced by a Democrat Democrat assemblyman from San Francisco. So in terms of what non-working hours are, the employer and the employee would first have to come to an agreement on that. And the bill would also allow an employee to file a complaint if an employer violated the agreement. What do you think of the bill? Leave a comment to tell us what you think. We're actually going to feature some of them in our show tomorrow, so be sure to do that. Besides that, that's all the stories we have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any feedback also, let me know down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget, business matters. Goodbye.